I mean, it is about almost 10 to the hour, 8. You know, 8 o'clock we have news, and then we jump into the hour of violence and a whole bunch of things. We have a whole bunch of things on our lineup. We didn't even touch much of the lineup yet.
We didn't yet.
But, I mean, AfroFacts.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about how that came to be.
Ooh, okay. So, you know, for those that don't know, I am Black. And I did not grow up around Black people. And so when I finished school, I was just like, ooh, I don't know anything about Black history outside of what would be presented to me on American television. And so I just couldn't understand. I'm like, why do they have like such a big acknowledgement moment for Black history, but none of that's happening here in Canada? I didn't learn anything, like not a lick of a thing in school, all the way to university. And so that felt weird, being Black and not really knowing anything. So I decided to teach myself and my friends about Black history. That's really what it was. And what was interesting about that is none of my friends are Black either. And so it really became a bit of a navigation of how to get people that didn't inherently have a connection or a reason to have a connection to the information to not only find it entertaining, but to really convey the knowledge in a way that allows them to retain it and ultimately learn. So over a 10-year period, I would create a game to do exactly that. I started out with 20 questions on a piece of paper and 3 friends, and it didn't go well. In like the first 10 minutes, I could see the fear in their eyes.
Oh, no.
I could feel the frustration in my heart. And I'm like, everybody break. This is too much. And so I realized that was not the way. And so I had to think about what do we like to do, and we would have game nights. I'm like, okay, let me take some of the aspects of my favorite games and see what I can do with it. How can I remix it? And that is how AfroFacts was ultimately born. I would create a game each year, a version of the game, and I turned it into an annual event because I really wanted to immerse my friends in African culture for an evening. So my mom would make a traditional African meal that included the jollof rice.
That's right.
And my friends would come over. I would give them a study guide at the beginning of February. They come over at the end of February. We'd have a party. There would be prizes. There'd be a theme each year. And so it really became this event within our friend group that grew in popularity. But it gave me an opportunity to test something out every year. We'd play the game. I'd get their feedback, and then I would work on it for the following year on how I could raise the bar on myself for delivering an even better time. And so from years of that is where we got to today. Yeah.
Well, let's give a round of applause for all that work.
Hey.
So, like, where is AfroFacts going from here?
Well, funny you mentioned. So what I'm actively doing right now is really working on gaining access to the school system, because I think it would be an incredible tool for teachers, because it's not that teachers don't want to engage in comfortable conversations or be more inclusive in the classroom. It's really about the how. How do we do it in a way that is respectful, that doesn't offend, that really makes everyone as comfortable as possible? And sometimes teachers, as we know, overworked, God bless them, doing more than they're getting paid for. They don't always have the tools they need to be supported in doing that. And I think, you know, we've been socialized to run away from such interactions, run away from such conversations. So it's like learning a new skill for the first time. And some people are happy to dive into that pool and figure it out. Others are far more tentative. So it's about how do we get the teachers comfortable, because teaching and school is really about modeling at the end of the day. What are the teachers modeling to students? So if they're able to model that uncomfortable conversations doesn't mean don't engage. It just means be aware of how you engage and you're still able to move forward, then that's something kids are able to pick up. And then imagine if we were to teach that at a younger age, get the minds of tomorrow learning about diversity, equity, inclusion today, learning about not just Black history, but minority histories, and then having the time to apply that to how they lead their lives, the perspective that they utilize to see the world. That would make such a huge difference, because this generation right now is an example of what happens when we don't learn it.
Yeah.
And as we can see, lots going on
There's a lot
in the
to-
world
there's a
as a
lot to-
result of that.
There's a lot to be learned.
So we have an opportunity to change it. And that's what history is about at the end of the day, learning from the past. So I'm like, okay, I've learned that it needs to be in the school system. If I had learned what a microaggression was or what unconscious bias was, I would have felt more comfortable as a kid calling it out when it happened because we would have had the verbiage to call it out.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there was no language around it. I could feel something wasn't right, but I didn't know how to verbalize it or didn't feel confident enough to do so without risking losing friends, because when you get into those moments, it really becomes about who's going to step into allyship, who's going to back you. All it takes is two people that could be wrong deciding that they're right, and then they become right. So, opportunity just to change how we do things and just to support kids in finding that confidence early to step into allyship for themselves and to really build their critical thinking about the information that they're getting in such a intense way from social media, from the news, just a way for them to process and digest it while just, making them better.
Awesome. Oh, you got any questions about that, Danny?
I was just going to say, have you, you wanted to get into the school system, so have you made that process of like talking to like a teacher? Or?
I was just at a policy meeting with a group of trustees for a particular school board, and they have a policy meeting with the parents. And so, as luck would have it, I got invited. And so they were going over 3 policies. They were going over the cell phone policy, discrimination and racism, and just like how to bring that to life. And then there was a third one that I don't remember. Inclusion in the classroom. So it was really interesting, one, to see what written policy looks like for the education system and how they write it, and then to hear parents have comments on it. And we're talking about parents from all walks of life, so different ethnicities, and just hearing what their comments were and seeing the support for the policy at the end of the day. Now, was it a little, it was robust. There were multiple pages to this policy, lots of definitions in it. It was really interesting to see how they broke down the different categories that they wanted to provide more inclusion for. So, for example, they would say race, but then they would also say skin or color. And so in my mind, I'm like, is that not one and the same?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
one and the same.
Yeah.
But like, so it's really kind of navigating definitions. What do certain things need? What are the groups that we want to make sure that we're representing? And like, it's going to be a journey. But yeah, that's part of the work that I'm doing to just really understand the audience.
Yeah.
What are the concerns? What are they wanting to see? What are they trying to implement? And are they going to be able to do so in a way that is truly effective? So it was really nice to kind of be on the ground level of that and get to see a little bit of the underbelly of the system.
Yeah.
Cool.